So to refresh, we're going to kind of pick up where we left off. This is line A, this is line B, this is transversal T. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the same side interior angles were angle 3 and angle 5. And angle 4 and angle 6. The same side exterior angles were angle 1 and angle 7, angle 2 and angle 8. So now we're going on to some new stuff here. We have alternate interior angles. And I think I'm going to forego actually writing out the definition. We'll just talk about what that means. So from this cluster, I need to pick an angle that's in the interior region. Again, this will be the left side. This will be the right side. Okay, so I'm looking interior region. So I'm just going to start with angle 3. Now the second angle that I pick has to be from this cluster. It also has to be the interior region, but it's got to be on the alternating side of the transversal. So whereas the first angle we picked was on the left, the next angle down here has to be on the right. Well, the two that are on the right are 6 and 8, but because it has to be the interior region, it's got to be this one. So we're going to say angle 3 and angle 6. Alternate interior angles. But there's another pair. If I take a look at angle 4 is in the interior region. It's on the right-hand side. So now I'm going to pick an angle from this cluster, which is also in the interior region, but on the left side. So that leaves us with angle 5. So angle 4 and angle 5 are also alternate interior angles. Okay, alternate exterior, as the name would imply, means alternating sides of the transversal, but this time the exterior regions. So I'll switch the colors up. And we'll start with angle 1. Angle 1 is in an exterior region, and it's on the left. So now I'm going to pick something from this cluster that's on the right and also in the exterior region, and that only leaves us one option, and that's angle 8. So angle 1 and angle 8, alternate exterior angles. And if I go over here and let's say I put an equal sign here. Angle 2 is in an exterior region. It's on the right side. So from down here, exterior region on the left side leaves us with, you guessed it, angle 7. So angle 2 and angle 7. So alternate interior and alternate exterior angles, pretty easy because the terms themselves sort of describe what you're going to be looking for. The last type of classification is corresponding angles, and this might be the toughest one of all because the name itself doesn't really imply what's happening there. So corresponding, I'm going to write a few things down, means same side of transversal, and we need one interior and one exterior angle. So you're going to have one of each. So these are the parameters that we need to follow when we're doing this. So same side of the transversal. So let's start with number 1. I'll put a plus here. We'll stick with some math. So I need to pick something from this cluster on the same side of the transversal, but this time, since this one was on the exterior, this has to be the interior. So it's going to be 1 and 5. So angle 1 and angle 5. Okay, now I'll put a minus by angle 3. So angle 3, I've chosen that from the left of the transversal, and it's from this upper cluster, and it's in the interior region. So now I need to move to the lower cluster. I need to stay on the same side of the transversal, meaning the left side. And since I originally picked interior, now I need exterior. So that's going to be 7. So angle 3 corresponds with angle 7. Another thing that might help you in this cluster here, angle 3 was in the lower left. In this cluster here, angle 7 was the lower left. They're in the same regions of their respective clusters. If we go back and we look at the first answer we put, 1 and 5, angle 1 is in the upper left cluster, the upper left corner of the upper cluster, and angle 5 is in the upper left corner of the lower cluster. But there are actually two others. If we start looking at the right side, we'll see that there are two other pairings. So I'll put a little division symbol by angle 2, which is in the upper right. Well, if we go down here to this cluster, what's in the upper right? It's angle 6. So maybe talking about it in terms of the upper left and the upper right is easier than the actual definition. So we know that angle 2 and angle 6 are also corresponding because they're both upper right. There's one other pairing. Can you guess what it is? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. I'm fairly certain you all got that right. I'll put an X here. Angle 4 and angle 8. They're both lower right. So angle 4 and angle 8. So there are 5 classifications in total. Same side interior, same side exterior, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and corresponding. I personally feel that this one might be the toughest because it's the only one in which the term itself doesn't really tell you what's happening. But if we think about upper left goes with upper left and lower right goes with lower right, that sort of thing, I think it's actually pretty easy. What I want to do now is give you some hints in determining some of these classifications in diagrams that are more complex. These diagrams over to the left, they're really not that complex, but I will teach you how to spot some of these things so when the diagrams do become a little more complicated, you'll be able to do it. The first type of classification I want to look at is the same side interior angle classification. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight those two angles with tick marks. So there's a tick mark by 1 and there's a tick mark by 2. And I'm going to do the same thing for these others. Number 2 is same side exterior, so I'm going to put a tick mark there and a tick mark there. And for 3 we've got alternate interior, tick mark there, tick mark there. For 4 we have alternate exterior, which are angle 7 and angle 8. And for number 5 corresponding, I've got 9 and I've got 10. Now the rule that I'm creating is that wherever there is a tick mark, whatever line that's touching, we're going to shade in. So for number 1, the blue tick mark is touching on the top, it's touching on the side, and it's touching on the bottom. Now what you might notice is that this orange spray paint is showing the letter C. So what you want to do is when you're in a more complicated diagram, you want to highlight the angles with tick marks, you want to shade them or highlight them with a highlighter, and you want to look for a C. Now if the diagram is rotated, it might actually look like a U. Or if it's rotated the other way, it could be a backward C, or rotated and make it look like an N. So look for a C, a U, or an N. Okay? For alternate exterior angles, which would be 3 and 4, we're going to use the same technique. Wherever the tick mark is touching, we're going to shade that in. So we're going to shade here, we're going to shade there, we're going to shade here, and we're going to shade there. Now, to me, this doesn't look like a letter of the alphabet, but what my students in the past has said it looks like, if you were to draw a stick figure, it kind of looks like the feet. So there's like one leg with the shoe going this way and one leg with the shoe going that way. Now, this happens to be sideways, so there's the leg with the shoe and here's the leg with the other shoe. So this has helped students. I don't know if it will help you, but in the past students have used this and they seem to like it. So look for the stick legs, the stick figure legs. Okay, the next one will be alternate interior. This one's easy. This is always a crowd pleaser. If we shade this upper portion, we get this, and the blue is touching this little red portion in the middle, and then we get this. What letter of the alphabet do you see here? Well, if you hadn't guessed it, it's a Z. So look for a Z. Now bear in mind that if the diagram is rotated, the Z might be backwards, and that's okay. Whoa, that's not a Z at all, is it? Let's try that again. Don't look for that. So if the Z is backwards, it'll look like this. And it could even be, I guess, rotated sideways, in which case it might look like an N. So if you see a Z or a backward Z or an N or an upside down N, capital N, those would be the signal to use alternate interior angles. Okay, moving on. Number 4, alternate exterior angles. So the blue tick mark is touching this upper red portion, this blue portion, this lower red portion, and this blue portion. And students in the past, again, this doesn't look like a letter of an alphabet, but they said it looks like a broken X. So it's like an X that has been pulled apart. So look for, if I were to draw an X, I might do a portion of it like this and a separate portion like that. So it's broken. And it could be sideways. So broken X, alternate exterior angle. And there it is, the broken X. And finally, we go to our last one, which is corresponding angles. And the letter that emerges here, I hope none of you get on your next quiz. It's touching on the top. It's touching this red portion in the middle. It's also touching this red portion down there, and then this blue portion here. Eek, what do we see? F. So for corresponding angles, you're going to look for an F, although you have to bear in mind the F might be backwards, and it could be upside down or twisted and rotated some way. So these are little tricks. You need to have your highlighter ready or your colored pencil. You need to identify the angles with tick marks and then shade wherever the tick mark is touching and look for one of these things. Same side interior is going to be a C. Same side exterior are the stick feet. Alternate interior are the Z. Alternate exterior is the broken X, and corresponding is the dreaded F.